What is up, y'all? I'm demoing some more gear today, and it's more budget gear, and it's more budget gear from JOYO Audio. Today we're checking out the JOYO JDI-48 Reamp and DI box. Now, for those of you that live and work in the real physical amp world, you know that a Reamp box is a must, and so is a DI box. And those are two separate boxes, and you know, the lowest priced decent ones are all over $100 each, and this is like $85 right now. Affiliate link down below, as you already know. And this is a sponsored video. JOYO did send this to me to demo for y'all. They are not paying me to make this video though. So if you could use that affiliate link down below, that would really help me out because your boy needs to pay his bills. Yeah. So let's go ahead and open up this DI box / Reamp box. Okay, we've got some instructions. You know what? I am gonna keep these this time because I always regret not keeping the instruction booklets. The box, however, we probably don't need. Okay. All right, so what are we working with here for $85 in a DI and Reamp box in one? So we've got our XLR / 1/4 inch input. We have a ground lift switch. We have the output level adjustment. We have a -6 dB low cut at 80 Hertz. Pretty perfect for guitar, I would say. We have a -15 dB pad, perfect for those of you using active or extremely hot pickups. We do have an input in through, which we can also merge using that switch there. Merge. Let me know if you get that reference. And then we have the balance output, which also has a ground lift, and then it has a phase reverse, and then we just have a normal 1/4 inch output. That is pretty sweet. How do we use this? Why do we use this? Why do we need a DI box? Why do we need a Reamp box? Well, if you're not using a real amp, then you probably don't. If you're using plugins and things like that, your audio interface already records your DI just straight into the computer to begin with. So don't worry about a DI box. Don't worry about a Reamp box. It's extra money you don't need to spend. But if you're working with real amps, I would very highly recommend taking a look at something like this. What this does is it takes my guitar signal into this box here and then directly into my audio interface. Nothing affecting it, no amps, no pedals, no nothing. But then it also sends that guitar input back out and into my pedal board. So it's gonna go into my pedal board and then into my amp, which is then being routed back into my audio interface through a separate input. Why would I do this? Why would I go through all that time to record my DI track and my amp track? Because maybe I want to reamp my tones later. What is reamp, might you ask? Well, reamp means taking that DI track that I recorded and sending it back out into my guitar amp. Or hell, what if I want to send it into a guitar amp sim plugin at the same time as my amp? Well, that's again what this DI box can help me do. But to reamp a guitar signal that's coming out of your DAW, it is no longer a signal that your amp can take. It can take it, it's just not going to sound good. So what a Reamp box does is it takes that signal and it turns it into the proper type of signal to then go back through the amp. And again, why might I want to do this? Maybe I want to run that signal through a different amp. I have my Rev G20 set up right now. What if the riff that I record, all of a sudden I'm like, damn, that was the perfect take. It would sound better through the PV Invective though. Well, with a Reamp box, I can send it out of Logic Pro, back through this box, and then into my amp. Something that's very, very convenient for those that are tone chasing constantly like me. Or maybe you recorded a whole EP or an album, right? And during the mix phase, you're like, wow, this amp is just not vibing with the song. It doesn't sound the way that I want it to. Again, Reamp box, and because you recorded that DI and the amped track, you can send the DI track, again, back out of your computer, into the amp, back into the computer. This is something that most studios have on hand, but again, there's always multiple boxes that are expensive to do it. So we've got one box here. Let's plug it in and see how it works. Okay, so what we need to do is move these instructions. All right, so the way that this is going to work is I'm going to go from my guitar into the input stage of the little box, right? Of the Reamp / DI box. And then it has a throughput right here. And the through is what we want to go out into the amp. And so what I need to do is run yet another cable. This is going to make a little bit of a mess of cables, but for a good reason. So we take another cable and then we go back into my pedal board. So now we've got that plugged into my pedal board and we should now have sound. Cool. So far, so good. We're working. Now we need to go back into my audio interface. Now there's two different ways that you can do this. We can take the balanced output which is an XLR, and we can go into the audio interface. Now, it is important to note that if you want to use the phantom power function on this box, you do need to plug it into the XLR input on your audio interface and then turn on that phantom power button. If you don't do that, you won't be getting that phantom power. It can't generate the power on its own because nothing can. So you do want to make sure that you've got it plugged in properly if you want to use the phantom power option to use some of the other options on here. Now, inside of Logic Pro, as you can probably see here as I move some of my mess around, we've got my rev track set up, right? But now to use the DI output of the DI box, I need to add another track in my DAW, and I need to set that to input number 1 because that's what it's plugged into. All right, so now we're gonna call that DI. So right now, the way that we've got this working is we have my guitar going directly into this input here, so just the regular left input. We have the through, this cable is actually going back out to my pedal board and the amp. Then we have this XLR cable, the balanced output, going into the interface, and that's going into my other inputs. Now we have input 1 and input 2 being used. Input 2 is from the amp. Input 1 is just the DI. And you notice the little 48 volt phantom power light is now on, and that's because, well, I turned it on. So that's what we're working with right now. Now, if we go into Logic, let me grab my guitar now so I stop almost hitting it off of the desk. Up here in Logic is where we now need to do the work. So let's go ahead and go over to this DI track. Okay, so now you hear no amp, right? Just a very out of tune guitar. Okay, and that's with zero input gain or anything happening on the audio interface. So we've got everything good there, right? So we've got a little bit too much gain happening though. So if we go ahead and add in a pad to that, you'll notice that now we're not clipping anymore. We're not clipping the signal. And we're hitting right at about 12 dB, so we can actually, yeah, now we're hitting right about 11.5 to 12 dB. So we're actually right in the range that we'd want to be to record both my DI and the amp. Now if we go over to the rev channel here, so now we're hearing both, and if we arm them both to record, so now we've got both tracks active, but I'm going to turn off the input monitoring on the DI track, and I'm going to hit record here so y'all can see what we're doing. Again, sorry for my guitar being so damned out of tune there. So, what do we have here? We've got two different tracks that I recorded, and you'll notice on the screen here, they both look quite a bit different. You can tell one of them is the amped tone. You can tell how the peaks are all clipped off of there, right? So let me mute that one. Let's go ahead and listen to this track here. So this is the DI. So literally nothing, just my guitar plugged into the interface because it's going through the DI box portion of the JOYO JDI-48. And then if we go over to the rev and mute the DI signal, and again, as I told you earlier, the why behind this is, what if I don't like that rev tone that I got? Let's go ahead and add an amp sim. Let's go ahead and add Archetype Gojira X onto this DI signal and open that up. So now I can actually use a whole different amp sim or amp. I could again use the reamp portion of this box to then send it back out of my audio interface and into my PV Invective. So this is an extremely convenient box, and honestly it sounds great. I have no issues with how this sounds whatsoever. I didn't hear any like crazy noise floor issues or anything like that, and I have my speakers up pretty high, so I would hear that if it was there. So I gotta say, this is pretty clean, pretty transparent, and very easy to use. I've got a couple extra cables, sure, but to have the added convenience of being able to reamp my guitar signal, capture my guitar signal into the interface as a DI, and then capture my amped signal at the same time through the second input, it's just one of those things. It's a quality of life improvement for people that work with music constantly and are using real amps. Bassists could benefit from this as well if they're using a real bass amp. Anybody using a real amp, or maybe their entire pedal board going into the computer, this will be a game changer for you whenever you decide that you want to change things later. You saw that I can record both of those tracks at once very, very easily. Every DAW can do this. Doesn't matter which one that you use. You can be using GarageBand and it can still do this. So what do you think? Does the JDI-48 from JOYO, does it do the trick? Because, I mean, if you watch this and think it doesn't do the trick, then you're probably lying to yourself. Dude, it's $85 and it does the job of $230+ devices. So I'd say 100% worth it. Again, affiliate link down below. Now, one other thing though, if y'all want to learn how to do this kind of stuff, you might not always find the right YouTube videos to, learn exactly what you want to learn. Maybe you need to learn something super specific about how to record guitars, about how to mix, about how to set up your guitar tone in DI boxes and things like that. Well, I offer lessons for that now. And I've been doing them for a while, so you won't be my first student or anything. I'm having a ton of fun doing them, and if you or anybody you know might want some one-on-one time with me so I can show you how to do this stuff, not just give you a video to watch, not just give you a PDF or anything like that, I will show you how to do what you want to know how to do. Let me know. Down in the description below, there's a link to my website where you can sign up and I will be in contact with you via email. Let me know. I would love to work with you, and again, it helps to keep my head above water so that I can keep doing this kind of stuff. But as far as a JOYO JDI-48 box goes, let me know if you have any questions about it. This is, again, both a Reamp box and an active direct box, so you can use this for so many different purposes in your home studio. Let me know what other questions you have about it. Leave them down in the comments below, and if you haven't already, like and subscribe, and that whole shebang. So, until the next time, peace and love, and I'll see you all in the next one.